9-year-old little girl named Katie Beers had been locked in a dungeon on Long Island and sexually abused by her kidnapper, a man named John Esposito. He kept her for 17 days, chained by the neck in a locked wooden box suspended above the ground. A television in the corner of this room provided the only distraction, the only light. Her meals were junk food.
In the picturesque town of Mastic Beach, Long Island, New York, where the charm of quiet streets met the winter glow of holiday lights, a girl named Katie Beers was kidnapped in 1992, just after Christmas and before New Year's. From the moment Katie was born, life had been unkind to her. Her mother abandoned her on the street, leaving her to fate. A woman named Linda took her in, but not out of love or kindness. To Linda, Katie was no more than free labor. At just 9 years old, Katie's days were filled with household chores, her small hands doing the work of an adult. She was never allowed to go outside, never went to school, and could only watch other children play from afar, imagining herself among them. In Linda's house, Katie lived not as a child, but as a shadow of one. From the moment Katie was born, her life had been steeped in pain. Abandoned by her mother, Marilyn Beers, she was taken in by Linda, a neighbor and supposed friend of Marilyn. What should have been a safe haven quickly became a nightmare. At just 2 years old, Katie's innocence was shattered. Linda's husband, Salvatore, began to assault her whenever she was left alone in the house. For 5 long years, the abuse continued in silence, the weight of fear and confusion far too heavy for a child to bear. When Katie turned 7, she found the courage to tell Linda, desperate for someone to protect her. But instead of love or comfort, she was met with anger. Linda shouted at her, accusing her of lying, and Katie's small voice was silenced once more. Her days were filled with endless chores and isolation, the warmth of childhood replaced with the cold sting of neglect and betrayal. Katie dreamed of kindness, of freedom, but in Linda's house, all she had was pain. Amid all the pain and loneliness, there was one person Katie believed truly cared for her. That was John Esposito. He was Linda's neighbor, and their families often visited each other's homes. Through these visits, Katie came to know John, and in him, she found a glimmer of kindness. John would sit with Katie, talking to her in a way that made her feel seen and valued. He brought her small treats, offering moments of comfort in her life. For a child who had known only neglect and cruelty, these gestures felt like love. To Katie, John Esposito wasn't just a neighbor. He was the only person who made her feel like she mattered. Katie trusted John Esposito more than anyone else. He was her escape from Linda's house, often taking her out for small outings that felt like a breath of freedom. So, when Linda kicked her out, Katie's first thought was to go to John. She believed he was the one who'd keep her safe. But as she stepped into his home, seeking solace, she had no way of knowing she was walking from one hell into another. What had once felt like kindness would soon reveal a darkness that Katie could never have imagined. Katie arrived at Uncle John's house alone, her trust in him unshaken. He welcomed her in, sitting her beside him, speaking softly, and making her feel comfortable. In just 2 days, it would be her 10th birthday, a milestone she barely dared to hope might feel special. John knew Katie loved Spaceplex, a magical place filled with games, rides, and laughter. So he promised to take her there for her birthday. For the first time in years, Katie felt a flicker of joy. She played with other children, rode the rides, and ate her favorite treats. For a few fleeting hours, she felt like any other child, carefree and happy. But as the day ended and John took her back, the unimaginable happened. Katie never made it to his house. Somewhere along the way, she disappeared. What had started as the happiest day of her life became the darkest a moment that would change everything forever. Around 1 o'clock in the stillness of the night, Linda's phone buzzed, displaying an unknown number. Hesitant, she answered, "Hello?" A trembling voice, barely recognizable, broke through the silence. "I've been kidnapped," Katie sobbed, her voice cracking. "He has a knife. I'm so scared. Please save me."
It was a man kidnapped me and he had a knife. Oh no, here he comes, I gotta go.
Katie.
Linda dialed 911, relayed the terrifying call from the unknown number. When the investigation began, she told the police the last place they'd seen Katie was at Spaceplex. Hours turned into days, and despite relentless questioning and searching, the police found nothing. Katie's absence became a suffocating void, her fate an unbearable question mark. A week passed with no trace of Katie. Every lead had gone cold, and hope seemed to wane. Frustrated with the lack of progress, a new team was assigned, led by Detective Varon. Varon had a sharp intuition, and from the outset, he suspected the kidnapping might involve someone within Katie's family. The questions swirling in his mind wouldn't let him rest. Listening to the audio, Varon couldn't shake the nagging doubts. How could a 10-year-old girl know to use a word like kidnapped? How did she manage to reach the landline phone in such a terrifying situation? And how did she remember and dial Linda's number so perfectly? The more he analyzed, the clearer it became. Something wasn't adding up. Then, a chilling thought struck him. What if Katie hadn't made that call at all? What if someone had forced her to record those words, then used the recording to stage the call? Varon's mind raced with the implications. Detective Varon's suspicions initially centered on Linda and her husband, but after relentless questioning and thorough investigation, they came up empty-handed. The trail grew colder, leaving only one person in their sights: John Esposito, Katie's uncle. When police approached John, he appeared calm, almost offended. He insisted, "I have nothing to do with this," his voice steady. "Katie likes me a lot. I've taken her out plenty of times just for fun. And now you're doubting me?" But Varon wasn't convinced. Something about John's demeanor seemed too rehearsed, too defensive. Digging into his history, the team uncovered a dark and disturbing detail. 6 years earlier, John Esposito had been caught red-handed trying to abduct a 7-year-old at a shopping mall. The revelation sent a chilling wave through the investigation. Varon stared at the file, the pieces beginning to fall into place. John's past couldn't be ignored, and now police are left with nothing. A few days later, a surprising twist shocked everyone. John Esposito walked into his lawyer's office, and the weight of his confession spilled out in broken sentences. He admitted, "He have kept Katie," his voice low and heavy with guilt. "It's been 17 days. I don't even know if she's alive anymore." His lawyer froze, trying to process the horrifying words. "She hasn't seen daylight, hasn't eaten, hasn't drunk anything in days," John continued, his voice cracking. "I never meant for this to happen. I just don't know if she's even breathing now." The chilling confession left no doubt. Katie's life was hanging by a thread, and time was slipping away faster than anyone could have imagined. John Esposito's lawyer brought him straight to Detective Varon, who wasted no time mobilizing his team. Together, they headed to John's house, a sense of urgency driving their every move. John led them to a hidden entrance beneath his home. As the team uncovered the dungeon, its sinister design became clear. The space was meticulously crafted, a chilling indication that John had been planning this for a long time. John said, "She's probably dead. It has been 17 days without food or water. I doubt she survived." The officers descended cautiously, bracing themselves for the worst. They expected to find a lifeless body in the dim, suffocating space. But as their flashlights swept the small room, they froze. In the corner, Katie sat on the cold ground. Her wide, terrified eyes met theirs, and she quickly switched off a TV, shrinking back in fear. Officer said gently, "It's okay, Katie. We're the police. We're here to help you." Katie hesitated, her frail body trembling, but she allowed them to approach. Carefully, they lifted her from the dungeon and rushed her to the hospital. There, the doctor examined her with care. "She's severely weak from lack of food and water," the doctor said, relief softening his tone. "But remarkably, she's stable and will recover with proper care." When the police fully explored John Esposito's underground dungeon, the sheer depth and intricacy of the hidden room left them stunned. 30 steep steps led down to a soundproof 6-foot by 7-foot bunker, meticulously built over time. It was clear that John had planned this for years. With the evidence overwhelming, John was officially charged and brought before the court. His medical evaluation showed no signs of mental illness. He was fully fit to face trial. During the proceedings, the courtroom echoed with the gravity of his crime. Witnesses, investigators, and even Katie's trembling voice recorded during the call painted a chilling picture of his calculated actions. The judge, unmoved by his defense, handed down a 15-year prison sentence. Years later, in 2013, John Esposito's story came to an abrupt end. He was found lifeless in his prison cell, his death attributed to natural causes. For many, it marked the end of a dark chapter, while Katie, now free from her captor, continued her path toward healing. Katie was rescued from the dark dungeon and placed in a foster care center, where compassionate hands helped her heal. Over time, a kind-hearted couple legally adopted her, giving her the love and security she desperately needed. For 20 years, Jeanette kept her past buried deep within her heart. Then, one day, she found the strength to share her story during an interview. She spoke of the immense relief she felt knowing her abductor faced justice. Now Katie lives a fulfilling life in Pennsylvania with her loving husband and 2 children. She has turned her pain into purpose, becoming a motivational speaker dedicated to supporting others in their struggles. Her story of resilience inspires countless souls, proving that even in the shadow of despair, hope and healing can prevail. Katie Beers' story is a powerful reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the impact of compassion. It teaches us to remain vigilant and protect the vulnerable, to hold those who harm others accountable, and to recognize the importance of kindness in healing deep wounds. Her journey from unimaginable adversity to becoming an inspiring voice of hope shows that even the darkest experiences can lead to profound transformation. It calls on us to support survivors, foster resilience, and create a world where every child feels safe, valued, and loved.